वधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay, so just to recap a little bit for Meher and Gopi and Priya. Okay. So now the next, the last few verses, Lord Krishna introduced a change in topic. Okay, so from Tvam-pada, what we saw, which is whole discussion of who you are, we have now shifted to Tat-pada, right? Tat-pada means what is the cause of the universe, right? And what we saw is that according to the Vedic vision, the cause of the universe is something which is not away from the universe, it is everywhere. Okay, so now this everywhere, how do you understand? Because otherwise it remains a vague term. Okay, everywhere means what, and how do I relate to it, and how do I even understand that? Okay, so there were two different ways in which we looked at it. Okay, one was through the example of one thread, okay, which is putting together lots of beads. Okay, so when you see a mala, you don't see the thread, you see only the beads. So you assume that what, the thread is probably not there, or you don't know whether it is there or not, or you think that it is somewhere else, whatever, right? So here it says Ishvara is like that thread which puts together all the different beads. In order to analyze this sentence, we first said what are those beads. Okay, so what represents beads? Then we came up with very interesting things. We started by saying that all human beings. Then we expanded it by saying that the beads are not just human beings, they are all living beings, right? Then somebody said the beads are not just living beings but also the inanimate things. Okay, then we moved away and said it's not only things that you see on this earth, but also what, the stars are the beads, what the planets, the galaxies. So therefore what is represented by beads are all the different beings which encompasses the entire universe, right? So you must understand what it means to say everything. Okay, then we saw that what are the things which are putting together these beads. Okay, so there what did we come up with? Laws, right? So what are the different laws that we talked about? Biological laws, then what else? The physiological laws, physical laws, environmental laws, laws of survival, right? Psychological, excellent, emotional order. So therefore it binds us all together. Okay, so that means that neither you have created that nor I have created that, but our lives are connected through these orders, and you can't go away from this order. This is why when I say that we are not trying to eliminate sadness, fears, anger, because they are part of this emotional order, which is part of the psychological order. So that means that this we are subject to that order. Trying to resist those orders is really something which is living, it's fighting against something which is there. So what we do is skillfully, then are we saying that we are subject to law, so therefore we can't do anything? Are we puppets? No. Okay, understanding those laws, we have to wisely navigate our life. Intelligent interventions. Getting mastery over the emotions is really what Vedanta is talking about. It's not talking about elimination, because they are you find yourself in this scheme of things which is very intricately arranged, and there are series of laws. Okay, so that means the thread is the series of laws within which you have to work, and you first need to understand that there are those laws and your life is governed by those laws, because most of the time we don't even understand that. Okay, and then what? Incorporate those laws in your decision making. This is something which is wise living. Okay. Then the second verse said, it went a little bit further and said that don't think that you are a bead, okay, which is being governed by the thread, which is all the different laws. Lord Krishna in the second verse says, I am the very bead itself.
And the very string itself.
And the very, not only the string, but also the very bead also. Ishvara is. Ishvara is, right? So now, as Arnaz is saying, Lord Krishna is using a pronoun. He is using me, but he is not using me as one person. Please understand. Because if he was using me as a person, then you can't, what, reconcile it with what, all the laws.
Yeah.
Right? So that means when he's talking about me, he's using the word as Ishvara, and then he's unfolding the whole vision of what Ishvara is. Okay? So therefore he's saying, I'm in form of all the laws. Okay? Not only I'm in form of all the different laws which govern different beings in the universe, I'm the very beings. Okay? So therefore, what does that mean? Okay? So that means we saw. Now you bring back what you have learned in Tattvabodha. Okay? We saw that all these beads, that when you look into those beads, what do you come to?
The intelligence is in
exactly, absolutely, right? So that means what we find is every bead that I see, for example, my physical body, every organ is there, but there is a more fundamental intelligence which organizes that organ, decides how it works, how it is supported by other organs of the body. The whole system is something which is running, and that intelligence is very much present there. Okay? So therefore, any knowledge that we talk about is what? Just what? Removing our ignorance about how the whole system is working. Human beings don't create knowledge, they actually what? Look into how the knowledge has already organized that. So this is why we say that intelligence pervades the very bead also. Okay? So therefore, then what does it mean? That everything is Ishvara. Everything means the beads and the laws which govern the beads. That means now we understand better what the word everything means. Okay? Now in case we have not totally understood, it talks about this everything in a slightly different manner. Okay? So what did we see? The other way of looking at everything is, what we saw is, every creation requires two different types of causes. One is what we call the maker, and the second is the material cause. Okay? So when we say the maker and the material. Okay? So for example, to make this, you need the maker of this beautiful glass, and you also need the material from which this glass is made. Okay? And in many things that we see, the maker and the material are two different things. Okay? So our orientation then is that the maker is maybe the cause of the universe, and then what? Somehow we think that the material from which the universe is made is different from the maker. Just like here, the maker, you don't even know where the maker is. You only see the material cause, right? Now, what the Upanishads are talking about is that in the case of the whole creation, can the maker and material be two different things? Logically, it's not possible. Okay? Why is it not possible? Because you run into this logical absurdity or impossibility. Okay? So what is that is that if you construe the fact that the maker created the world, then you have to ask, for any creation you require material. Right? So where did the material come from? If you say that the material already existed, that means there is already a creation. Okay? Then you have to ask, where did that material come from using which this cause of the universe created the universe? Okay? Already, that means the universe is already there. If the material is there, the universe is already there, right? Because any material exists in time and space, right? So therefore, in the case of the whole creation, okay, and then you have what? Infinite regression. You have infinite regression because then you have to ask, so then who created that material? There was somebody else. So from where did that somebody else created, you know? So then the whole thing is, it just leads to logical, you can't arrive at anything. Okay, so therefore, and the creation is already there, right? It's not that it doesn't exist. So therefore, we say the maker and the material is the same. When you say the maker and the material is the same, it's a huge statement. It's not a small thing. Okay, what does it then mean? It means, because the maker can be away from this creation, but can the material cause be away from the creation? It can never be away from the creation, because the material cause pervades the whole creation. Okay, so therefore Ishvara pervades everything. Okay, so this is why when you look at the laws, you find nothing but intelligence, okay, organizing the universe in a given way. Okay, and when you look at the objects that are governed by the laws, they are also nothing but intelligence, which is organizing different forms. Okay, what is a nice example to understand one thing being both the maker and the material? We saw one very easy example is your own dream. You are the maker of your dream, and you are also what?
The creator of the material.
You are also, exactly. From where? In the dream. While the dream is going on, who created the dream? You created. You, in the dream, you see mountains, you see rivers, you see trees, you see different characters. Who created? Which is the material that you used? Did you go and collect some trees from here and said, I want to implant them in my dream? Where is the material of your dream world?
In your mind.
Yeah, yourself, right? So you created the whole thing out of what? Your own self. Okay. Therefore, what? In the dream, but when you're in the dream, do you know that everything is just me? No. You live as though, how? You're one character in the dream, and you are what? Confronted with the world, which is all different things, and it gives you all kinds of different experiences. Okay? So therefore, I think yesterday in Times of India there was one article that if your kids had a nightmare, then how to deal with it. Okay? So that means dream can give amazing, very strong experiences. Okay? So now you created the whole thing, but while the dream was going on, because you did not know it, those experiences that you had were very real, and they left an impact in you. Okay? So therefore, what it says is, it's exactly, come back to this world and it's exactly the same. Okay? If you don't recognize the fact that all that is here is one, then you essentially deal with the universe as what? You're different, you're different, you're different, the world is different, the laws are different, and you're always subject to all these laws, right, which are enormous. And they do give experiences which are sometimes pleasurable, sometimes challenging. It's unavoidable. Nobody can avoid it. Okay? So the only, and what we try to do is, within the dream world, we try to keep fixing things. What is the solution? In the dream world, can you fix everything? The only way to fix it is what? To wake up. Exactly the same. Okay? So this is why, absolutely, they call it avidya nidra. Avidya nidra means it's like sleeping in ignorance. And within that, you are trying frantically to find solutions. The solutions don't lie there. It is like Einstein, these people, the physicists and all, they are brilliant people. They understand how the universe is. So he once said that when you're caught in a problem, you're caught in that paradigm. You can only see that and you're caught. The only way to solve the problem, and you want to solve the problem keeping the paradigm. He says the only way to solve the problem is what come out of that paradigm, because the solution lies in seeing it totally differently than what you are. Because the problem, the very fact that you're suffering is because your understanding is something which is a wrong understanding. So you have
that
to,
lovely thing that Surya does, the drawing.
yeah,
Where you have to go
we have to
outside.
exactly, and then you have to see it. Okay, so this is what the Upanishads do. They make you see the world very differently than what you have been seeing. Okay, so therefore everything means material and the efficient cause. Now in the next few verses we are going to see what does everything mean. See, this is where the commitment of the whole Shastra is. We don't gloss over things. We don't make one statement, oh it's everything, and then because that everything has to be understood accurately in order for you to live your life differently. Okay, so therefore now this everything is shown through one word, which is Om. Okay, so now let's look at the next couple of verses, which is talking about Ishvara through the word Om. Okay, so it is chapter 8, verse 11 to 13.
Page 10, right?
Yeah, this, yeah, what I have given page 10, the last verse.
The last verse, which is 8, chapter 8, 11 to 13.
Yeah. Okay, so now the word Om, we will see. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tattam padam sangrahena pravakshe omityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yav prayatityjan deham sayatif paramam gatim. So it says, you will chant after me? No? Okay.
That's too hard.
This is very difficult.
This is very tough.
Okay. So now, what here he says that the whole pursuit of this, what we call spiritual knowledge is, right? Here he says, Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. I'm going to now talk about the one pada, which is Om, understanding which people give their lives. Okay, whole life is committed to understanding what is Om. Om means Ishvara. Okay, and the proper understanding of Ishvara,
Translation of pada,
pada is word.
word.
Yeah. Okay, so that padam, that word, yad ichantaha, desiring which, okay, the people brahmacharyam charanti, they live a very committed life, a very disciplined life in the pursuit of that pada Om. That what is that Om? That is what I am going to talk about now. Okay, so here he says Om ityekaksharam brahma, that Om is Brahman. Okay, now what is Om? In Mandukya Upanishad there is a whole methodology where it shows that Ishvara pervades everything, okay, through the word Om. Okay. Om is divided in 3 letters, A, U and Ma. So if you have these Sandhi rules, I don't know if you know a little bit of Sanskrit, but when the 3 letters combine together, they join together according to Sandhi rules, right? There is a method, there is a rule as to how they join together. So A, U and Ma, when they join together, it produces a sound Om. Okay. Now, if A, U and Ma are together, which becomes Om, what does A mean, what does U mean, and what does Ma mean? Okay, that's what you need to know to understand what Ishvara is. Because when you say Ishvara is everything, How will you describe? You need to describe Ishvara. If you start to give the names of the forms, you will never stop. What is Ishvara if I ask you and you said everything, and if I ask you everything means what? How will you describe? If you start giving the names of the forms, when will you end? You'll never end, right? And by the time you have already started counting, some of those forms have gone and new ones have come, right? So therefore, you need to design a methodology which incorporates everything, right, of the past, present and future. And even if forms change, right, that basic framework does not change. This is how you have to design it. So the how it has devised is A represents all the physical forms. Okay? So that means the universe constitutes all the different physical forms. Okay? Physical forms when of the past, of the present and the future. So that means when you say that, you recognize the fact that the physical forms are constantly changing, but the intelligence which arranges those forms and makes them interact with each other doesn't change. So when I understand the intelligence, the details of the form becomes inconsequential. Without understanding the details of the form, I can understand the intelligence behind it. Okay? So therefore I can say all the physical forms that are known to me and unknown to me. Okay? So therefore that intelligence, as I showed you, that 1,000 years ago when the body existed, that same intelligence was very much there. What? Making it work. Right? People say, how does teaching of Vedanta reconcile with the theory of evolution? Okay? Because in fact, according to the theory of evolution, how long is human life? Human life started only
Since the Big Bang. Yeah.
no, human life was just now,
Yeah,
right? Initially it was what? Cellular organ, and then multicellular, then what? Human being. So therefore, when those forms change, does the intelligence which is organizing those cells to make those forms, and as a result of certain external stimuli that itself changes its form, the intelligence is there intact. So therefore, Ishvara is always present. It doesn't matter which form. So it does not contradict the theory of evolution. Okay? So therefore, the intelligence is equally there right now in what? How the bacteria is. That's why you can actually understand the bacteria. Okay? It's there in virus. It's there in every form of the universe. Okay? That's why you know if you have virus, how to kill it. How do the doctors know? Because there is a certain way in which they behave. What breeds them, what destroys them, all this follows an order. Okay? So that intelligence is very much present. So therefore, everything in the physical universe is what? Manifestation of that intelligence. Now, think about inanimate things, because generally when we think about everything physical, we include only what? Living beings. Okay? So therefore, now let's look at the mountains. It seems, is there any intelligence in the mountains? Is there any?
Yes.
Yes, right? Where?
It's in the mountain. I mean, it was created by.
Exactly. So that means all these atoms and particles, when they are organizing to create what? This whole big structure, right? So that means most of these mountains are a result of volcanic activities. Okay? They were actually a part of the ocean, then some eruption happens, and then what? They they come out of the ocean and they form the mountain. Okay, so what is the level and how tall they are going to be? The whole thing is what? It's all part of one grand design of things. And within the mountain, the what is how high they are, you know, whether they can sustain any vegetation or not. The whole thing is part of the intelligent design. It's not something which is dumb. There is no part of the universe where there is no intelligence.
Meaning there is intelligent force behind everything.
Exactly, absolutely. So that means, and it's not only the cause, but it is very much there, making those atoms and particles organize in a way that exactly, it pervades the whole thing. Okay, so therefore this intelligence is something which is not only in living physical forms but also what? Non-living physical forms. Okay, just like in the dream, okay, you within the dream some things are animate and some things are inanimate, but both of them are sustained by what? Your mind and your intelligence. Okay, so therefore physical means that it includes both. Okay, that's why it includes planets, it includes stars, it includes the far off galaxies of which you don't even know. Okay, then if you take the entire physical universe, which is represented by the word akara, what remains as ukara and makara?
All the emotional, psychological.
Okay, so good. So the ukara represents the entire sukshma universe. Okay, one is what we call sthula universe. In the sthula universe, the physical universe, you have what? You, your physical body, and what? The physical manifestation of everything. Okay, ukara. This akara itself can then be divided as from your own standpoint. Okay, your own standpoint as the way you see the universe as your physical body and the entire physical universe. Akara. Okay, ukara represents the entire subtle universe. Okay. What does the entire subtle universe include?
Psychological and emotional.
Excellent, right? So that means your psychological order, your own psychology, your own emotions, your own what? All the capacity of your senses. This is all subtle. Okay, why is it subtle? Because I can see your physical eye, but I have no idea what is the capacity of your eye. I have no idea. So this is why, right, it is subtle. So many functions of your body. Right now when I look at your body, I don't know how your liver is functioning, how your kidney is, how is your circulatory system. All that I can't see by seeing you, your physical form. Okay, so this is why we call it subtle. Don't imagine. Unfortunately, what happens is, in the spiritual world, when they talk about subtle, they enter into imaginations. Some colors, some auras, some kind of they talk about all kinds of highly esoteric things in the name of subtle. When Vedas talk about subtle, they are very sane. They don't talk about these kinds, they just talk about what? Your mind, which is subtle. Okay, because I don't know I can't see your thoughts. Only you can see your thoughts. Okay, I don't know how much you can hear. I can only see your physical ear. That's why I call it subtle. Okay, it's a very sane, very rational understanding of what we mean by what is the subtle world. Okay, so that means also the subtle of the plants. Okay, when you pluck, what they go through, do you see it? You don't see it. That's why we call it subtle.
But it also includes physiological.
Exactly. It includes not just the physical exactly, but physiological, the entire physiological order. Okay, so that means Now, with this understanding, you can understand what is the difference between the mountain and the living beings. The mountain has only the physical form, there is no subtle. Okay, so therefore, even though the whole design is part of Ishvara, the design is such that in some forms there is a physical as well as subtle, whereas in some forms there is only physical. That's what accounts for difference, because you need to also account for difference. If everything is Ishvara, why is it that some things seem animate and some things don't seem animate if intelligence is everywhere? You understand that how you need to really be precise in your understanding of Ishvara. You can't just say everything and gloss over and say I understood Ishvara. No. The commitment is to, and also it answers all these questions that you may have about if Ishvara is everywhere, then why some things talk and some things don't. Right? It gives you an understanding. So that means your understanding is not vague, it is not fraught with misunderstanding. Okay? It is clear when you say all that is here is Ishvara. Okay? So subtle includes the entire subtle. And it also includes the subtle of the fish, the subtle of the birds, reptiles, everything. Physiology of every, how many species are there in this world? How many species? Countless, right? So it includes everything. This is why that whole, imagine as a child, you grow up with this understanding. So there is something which connects us all. We are not just isolated person, and you can't just, your orientation of living with the universe cannot be that you maximize your own gains and disregard the others. Because the way the universe is organized, you are part of the whole ecology of things. Either you can enhance the connections or you can disturb the whole connection. Okay, so therefore physical and subtle. And sometimes these giants, they have so much sensitivity, they just don't even walk with shoes because they will harm, because for them it is not they are something separate, they are part of one whole big thing, and you do what you can within your capacity not to harm. That amount of alertness is a very, very, very subtle way of living. Okay, that amount of sensitivity is,
I've been starting to feel bad, guilty killing mosquitoes also. It's true. Mosquito because I feel bad.
Some karma, but that's why you do every day one prayer and say that help me, because total non-harm is not possible. Otherwise you go crazy. So it's good to have, it's good to develop sense, but it can become an obsession. Okay, so therefore
So this confession thing with Christians is a good thing.
So in fact, the confession and all, then you feel you are guilty and all. It's very nice. There is a very nice Vedic prayer. Okay, it says Kara Charana Krutamba Kayajam Karmajam Va Shravana Nayana Jamba Manasam Va Paradham Vihitam Avihitam Va Sarvam Etat Kshamasva Jaya Jaya Karunabde Shri Mahadeva Shambhu. He says anything which is done by me, Shravana through my ears, Nayana through my eyes, okay, Shravana Nayana Jamva Manasam Va Paradam, Vihitam Avihitam Va, known to me, unknown to me, intentional, unintentional, okay, Sarvam Etat Kshamasva. May you, let me neutralize it with my prayer, let it go. Jaya Jaya Karunabde Shri Mahadeva Shambhu. Charana karana kritam va. Anything which is done with my limbs, my sense organs, with my mind, known to me, unknown to me, let it go. Every day. You have to do. So that means you have a clean slate. So let it go means you recognize the fact that you could have. See, the main point is that to be aware. Okay? So there is no guilt. There is exactly. It's not like guilt. Please take out this confession means, oh, I'm guilty, I'm a sinner. That self-loathe is extremely harmful. You know, when people, it's interesting, when foreigners come to Vedanta, they said it is so liberating. The burden they carry of this sin and that guilt that they carry, that they are sinners basically until they are redeemed. It's something, it's a huge, we don't even realize. Okay, but they tell us that you can't imagine how liberating it is. Here the whole thing is making us more aware without what? Entering further into self-blame, okay, self-criticism, self-guilt. These are huge burdens that we carry. We are not trying to again reinforce that. We are trying to heal ourselves. Okay, so but at the same time become more sensitive. So it's a very nice prayer where you say that all this I could have done. I recognize that, but what? I also use my prayer to what? Neutralize, because prayer is an act. An act when you recognize something that you have done and say that, okay, now may I be what? More sensitive. Then what? You are being proactive without blaming yourself. And you are not resorting to some external entity and saying, oh, I did something so wrong, or it's not this kind of a thing. It's like a very neutral statement of fact that this happens by all of us, but I take the responsibility for that. Okay, so this is how you grow, and awareness and acknowledgement. Exactly. Okay, so you're not. Exactly. So next time you are more careful, because automatically. Exactly. Okay, so this is where physical, subtle. Then what is makara? Makara is what we call the physical and subtle universe. Why the physical universe is different? Every form is different. The subtle universe, in subtle universe, your physiology, even though we follow certain norms of human physiology, your unique physiology is different from yours is different from mine. So therefore, right, what causes those differences? So this is what we call makara. Makara is for every physical form and subtle form which is different from the other, there are causes. So that is what we call the causal. The causal. Okay, the causal, which is what? The causal which made the past what it is, the causal which makes the present what it is, and the causal which will shape, right, the future as what it will shape. Okay, so therefore some physicist who has studied Vedanta, he said, according to Vedanta, and this is so true, okay, he said, according to Vedanta, there is one aspect of Ishvara which is constant, which is what? The intelligence. Okay, but the other part is what? The universe as it is manifesting, that is work in progress. Work in progress means that 10 years from now, what is going to happen is not totally fixed up to now. It is going to be a function of how you behave, how I behave, how she behaves, how...
That's why you would never really say it's a plan. The causal is not a planned.
It's not like totally exactly, right? So what we mean is there is a there's a scope for exactly. So that means causal, we mean cause and effect relationship, which is constantly evolving. We don't mean a fixed plan. That's why we don't use words called destiny. We don't use words like that, which are fixated, in which you find yourself totally helpless and you are like a puppet. It's a huge difference. Okay, because exactly, you're a constant participant in the universe, and you shape the universe also through your limited means. Not totally, but you still have a window to shape the universe. Not only your future, but because you're connected to everything else, what? Also the shape of the universe. Okay, that causal is a very, very important understanding. So that means every law, go back to every law, okay, whether it is what, the physical law, it is, there is one thing which is the intelligence, but how it shapes the universe is constantly changing. Some stars which were there so many years ago, they disappeared, and new stars are going to come, you know. So that means it accounts for all the changes that take place. But the changes that take place are not random changes, right? They are governed through some series of highly sophisticated interventions. Okay. So therefore, this is where then in the cause, therefore every law is a law which is a constant law, but the way it applies keeps changing, right? Similarly, the law of karma and law of dharma is exactly the same. There is a law which governs human interaction, but the way it applies is changing. How? Based on what is the action is not predetermined. Today, what action I perform is what? Going to decide what is going to be my tomorrow and 10 years from now. Okay, so therefore it introduces, the causal introduces certain amount of stability, the laws which are constant, but the way it applies, they are constant. It includes both. How they apply will depend upon how you will collapse those possibilities. Okay. So therefore, it includes everything. The physical, the subtle, and the causal. Okay. Om. And Om itself, now the thing is, which is very important. Now you think that the Om includes physical, subtle, and the causal. Anything else is remaining in the universe? A, U, and Ma. Nothing, right? Now, one small problem that can happen if you don't understand the nature of Ishvara accurately is, before, now you thought, before you thought that there was no Ishvara. Now you understand it pervades everything. Nothing is away from it. Nothing is separate from it. Okay. Before, your problems belong to whom? You. Right. Now you understand everything is Ishvara. Where do those problems belong? To Ishvara. So now Ishvara gets loaded. This is a problem. Okay. Ishvara gets loaded with not only my problem, but what? Everybody's problem. It's a problem compounded. Right? It also includes the problem of a criminal. It also includes a problem of you can't exclude anything from your understanding of Ishvara. You must understand the implications.
But that's because it's not Ishvara's problem, it's our problem as to how we use the law.
Excellent. Excellent. Right? So therefore, what you need to recognize is Ishvara is always the intelligence which never is affected by whatever is happening. Okay, so for example, just to give you an example, okay, so therefore when you have the experience of, let's say, sadness, right, so that means at the level of your physical brain some things are happening, right? So what is happening? Some neurons are getting, some connections are triggered, and then that gives you an experience of sadness, which is very real for you, right? Now when we talk about Ishvara, what are we talking about? It is that intelligent design, okay, which is deciding that in order to have this emotion of sadness, this neurological wiring has to be triggered. That intelligence is not subject to sadness, is free of it. While making it happen, it is free from it. Excellent, Roshni. Okay, this is how you can say the intelligence pervades everything, but it is free from the whole show. Like your own dream, right? You pervade your whole dream. The entire show of the dream cannot happen without you, but while the show is going on, are you ever affected? You are never. That's why when you wake up, what? You don't carry forward even an ounce of the dream world.
It's the cause and effect relationship without being either the cause nor the effect.
Excellent. Excellent, Arnas. Okay? It is itself just the intelligence, which organizes itself in form of cause and effect in terms of what? All the forms. Physical, subtle, connected through causes. Very good, Priya. So what you understood is also right, right? Itself is being free, but it pervades everything. Without that intelligence, no experience can happen, but no experience affects that intelligence. Okay, so that is Om. Om is Ishvara. Okay, now what here he says that the person who leaves this body, okay, taking Om, okay, understanding Om, okay, Saha Yati Paramam Gatim. That person gains the highest in this world. Okay, so generally people take it very literally. What people say is, while you're leaving the body, if you just chant Om, 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 then that is something which will what take you to the highest possible gati, right? Here what is not said whether you just chant Om or whatever. In this world, when you live, right, either you can live not having any understanding of Ishvara, or you can live what? You can spend your life where you begin to understand the presence of Ishvara and also the nature of the presence of that Ishvara. So if you have spent time knowing all that is here is Ishvara, then at the time of going, what? You are very alive to that presence. You cannot ignore that presence, because nothing, when you have to shed this physical body, it's not what? You don't decide. It is within the laws. Okay? Imagine the composure that you have if you have really understood that all this is one grand design which is manifesting in different names and forms through series of laws, and you can only do this much to navigate intelligently, but after that what? The whole thing is something which is very much there. Okay? And it will produce future forms and future forms and future forms. Okay? And you did what you had to do. And you lived your life not wasting away what? Whatever the skills that you had, whatever capabilities, whatever resources you had, just doing some small insignificant things. Okay? That is the awareness, the person who has lived life responsibly. Not only responsibly in terms of doing things, but also understanding things accurately. Okay? So that is the time that the person has made use of human birth to the maximum extent possible. Okay? Now, in order for you to have, right, so what exactly as a result of this Om, okay, and what is the relationship is what you need to understand. One aspect is remaining, okay, one aspect is remaining, and that is, if Ishvara is everything, okay, and when you did an inquiry about who are you, what did we discover? What is the nature of I, the Atma?
The observer.
The observer. And what is the nature of the observer?
The truth, the reality.
Yeah, but what?
It's free of
Yeah, it is free
Not
of.
the physical, not the.
Yes, exactly. So, what was the attribute of observer? I mean, not attribute. I don't want to use the word attribute. Sorry. What was the nature of observer?
It's free.
Yeah, free. But we used certain words.
The Anand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Satchidanand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So we said that it is existence. It is in the form of, the observer is in the form of awareness, okay, and which is Anantam. Anantam means that awareness has no limitation. Right? It is not physically confined. Okay. Now, what we are understanding about Ishvara is what? That intelligence which organizes the whole universe. Physical, subtle, causal, which is both what? The maker and the material, which is something which is not only in form of all the laws, but all the beings which are governed by those laws. You know, these are different ways in which we looked at Ishvara. Okay. Now, in order for Vedanta to be complete, we need to understand what is the relationship between, okay, that all intelligence and this Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Because otherwise you have not yet totally reconciled everything. Okay? The first 6 chapters, when they talk about Atma as Nityaha, Shuddhaha, Shashvataha, Puranaha, what we understood, as Avni says, is what we understood it as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Okay? Then the next chapters from 7 onwards, when they were talking about Ishvara, it was talking about what? That intelligence, that all intelligence. Okay. Now, in order for the whole teaching to what? Become, yeah, exactly. To become one coherent vision, you need to ask a question: what is the relationship between Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman and Ishvara, the cause of the universe? And then what? What exactly? Because who am I? I am Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. And Ishvara
And the cause of the universe.
Exactly. And Ishvara is the universe and the cause of the universe.
Satyam, Jnanam or Jnanam?
Jnana. Jnana. Gya is this, it's Hindi pronunciation. In Sanskrit, you call it Jnanam. Okay. So therefore, this is the next part which will be talked about in the next 2 verses. In that comes the resolution of what? The whole teaching.
Yeah.
Yes?
The I that is I and the I that is Ishvara.
Exactly. Right? So that means Now, absolutely, as Arna says, it's a very nice way of putting it, right? Because where did the inquiry start? The inquiry started with me, and what did I think who I was? This little physical body, right? And what was I shown? You're not this little physical body, you're Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Then what? Ishvara, inquiry into Ishvara started, and we talked about what? The whole universe, the intelligence. Then you ask Ishvara, what is this I? Which then when you say I am all intelligence, what is that I? So therefore, that whole inquiry is the truth of Ishvara. What is this the ultimate truth of Ishvara, or it enjoys even more fundamental truth? Okay, so that's what we will see in the next class.
Sorry, may I ask you one thing? When
Yeah,
you say
sure.
Om,
Yeah.
there is an amazing sense of that peace. Okay, you say Om 3 times, even any time. When
Yes.
you repeat Om, there is. So is it in a way that you're invoking
Yeah,
Ishvara
okay.
to come into your...
See,
In-
Ishvara is everywhere, Gopi.
Yeah,
You are
but-
bringing Ishvara in your own understanding.
How is the sensation? It
Yes.
is a physical
Sensation, yes.
that actually creates something in the mind
Absolutely.
that it just calms you down.
Try
Absolutely.
chanting something else.
It
It's
doesn't
the
happen.
chanting. It will.
It,
It will. Maybe you.
No, the
because
way
you
but
are in
that
a-
no, the
Om
way the
has
Om,
the,
yes, it is
it is more powerful.
true. There are
It has
some.
an amazing sense of power, actually.
There
just
are-
the word Om.
There are some, you're right, there are some experiments that when you chant Om, then there is, because for example, you speak and somebody
But
is
what is the
singing.
scientific? I mean, it is scientifically proven that Om is.
1 minute, just it's very simple. See, otherwise we think it's something very big and all. See, you speak the language, I speak the language. When the musicians use their music, they use the same they use the same words, right? But they organize them in a way it creates incredible harmony. Okay, so that
But
means
everybody doesn't even hear the harmony.
It-
Some people can hear that harmony.
yeah, some people don't exactly. So that means the organization of words sometimes, how is music? How did music come about? How did people recognize that when you put all these sounds together, they produce amazing amount of melody which otherwise doesn't exist? Okay, it is actually looking at the acoustics, the whole the Ishvara from the standpoint of the power of the sounds and what they create, the effects that they create,
And the emotions they
and
create
within you.
That is really
Absolutely.
But there is something about the vibration
So-
of those feel in your mind when you say it. It's supposed
Just
to
amazing.
It is amazing. But this is why, see, people stay Gopi at that level. So that means they think, by just chanting Om, maybe it is true that it will produce something if you have a good effect, a good kind of a feeling when you have some Shraddha or whatever. But the key is to really understand what that Om represents.
Now chant Om,
Standing
understanding
it,
entirety of it.
exactly.
It's very different.
It's very different. Otherwise, we stay at that level. Oh yeah, it produces nice sound, it will have some effect on me. But yes, it may be true, but I think the biggest thing is
But
if
it is a mixing of sounds that creates certain things.
certain
Like
vibrations,
when we
which
do
is
the
true.
prayers at Dungarwadi, that early morning when they do that prayer, the sound of that prayer creates vibrations that are very different. No, not positive, powerful. There's a power that, I don't know if you've attended the Charam, but
No.
those prayers are very different from all the other prayers that you hear.
So you see, the same thing, Vedic chants. You listen to a Vedic chant, and if somebody is chanting them properly, it creates an atmosphere which is incredible. It is incredible. Okay, so that means,
on a day trip.
yeah.
And the guy was showing us around, took us to a particular spot where the monks chanted, and we were all told to chant Om, and the vibration just went on and on like an echo. It was just the difference.
It is.
Yeah,
Natural,
so
yeah.
as a
Just
case like
stunned.
that.
Yeah.
And they both, in fact, sang. I got it recorded somewhere. Yeah.
We did
We
Gayatri
did the
Mantra.
Gayatri mantra.
Where?
Where?
In Ajagata, in Bangalore. There is one
So
spot.
there is something about that.
Only one spot is
Then
there.
echo
Same with Canary.
in this very, the vibration and the echo was amazing in that particular place. So Karnas repeated the Gayatri mantra and I recorded.
Wow.
It
So
was
that's
a
why. There's all these possibilities that exist within Ishvara.
It's also a state of mind.
It's a,
ambiance and
yeah.
it makes a difference.
It's just making yourself more
More
Aware.
That's what it is. Really.
Exactly.
And a combination of people together makes the difference.
The layers of ignorance that you remove, the more, that is exactly. You become such a refined, I mean, over a period of time, I'm sure even by now you see the changes in how you are, right? How you behave, how you see things, how your attitudes are, how your behaviors are, right? And you see now, you try to think that 10 years from now, you will realize you're a different person altogether. You think that you're listening to this Vedanta 1 hour in a week within your busy schedule, but even that 1 hour is making such a profound changes at a very deep level. Very, very deep level. Some things that you may know, some things you may not know.
Yeah, but also that constant awareness that the smallest thing you do, whether it's positive or negative,
As an effect.
has consequences
Consequences.
eventually.
Actually, yeah.
I was going to say something after the class.
Okay. So that is okay. So I will just stop with the prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.